All right, so now we know how to graph on a number line and write the interval notation. So now it's next step, well, solving inequalities. So we can use the additive property of inequalities. So for numbers a, b, and c, if a is less than b is the initial equation, that's going to be equivalent to a plus c less than b plus c. Okay, so we can add c to both sides and it doesn't change the inequality. Okay, so that's the key there. And similarly, if we have a is less than b, that's going to be equivalent to subtracting c from both sides, and that doesn't change the inequality. Okay, and so that's going to help us get something where maybe we have a plus c on this side and just b over here. You know, we can start taking things across by subtracting or adding, depending on how it is. And so what it basically says is we can add or subtract the same thing from both sides, whether it's greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and it doesn't change the inequality. Okay. Now, multiplication properties. Well, how does that work? Well, again, for A, B, and C, if A is less than B, that's equivalent to multiplying by C on the left and C on the right. So we get AC is less than BC. Okay. Now, this is key. Here, we're multiplying by C greater than 0. Now, if we multiply by c less than 0, what we have to do is, to make it equivalent, well, a less than b is equivalent to, well, we can multiply both sides by that c that's less than 0, but we have to flip our inequality over. So this is originally less than, and when we would do something less than 0, we have to convert it to greater than. So that's a key here. So and we can multiply or divide by the same positive number on both sides, because remember, if you multiply c, that could be equal to 2, or c could be equal to 1/2. And we do it by 1/2, that's really just dividing by 2. So either way it works. And if we multiply or divide by the same negative value, we have to remember to flip the inequality symbol. So that's a key. If you multiply or divide by a negative, flip that inequality symbol. And that's going to be something you really have to pay attention to as you go. Otherwise, you're going to get the wrong answer. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply those things we know, adding, subtracting, same thing from both sides, multiplying, dividing, the same thing from both sides. If it's greater than 0, nothing changes on the inequality. If it's less than 0, we flip that inequality around. So first one up, 2 plus r less than 3, okay? So let's get rid of that 2 here because we just want r. So if we subtract 2 here, those are gone. We get r is less than 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, so we've solved the inequality, step 1. Now graph the solution. All right, well, let's say that's 1. We'll say that's 0. And it's less than 1. So we're going to have open circle, and it's less than 1. Now it says, write the interval notation. Well, we know it's going from negative infinity up to 1 and a parenthesis. Okay. All right, so what about the next one here? 2 greater than a minus 2 over 5. Okay, now what do we do here? I have fractions over here and not over here, and there's all kinds of things to think about. Well, we're going to kind of get rid of that divide by 5 by multiplying by 5, because if we do that, that cancels that, and both of them become 1. Okay, so that's how we're going to get rid of that 5 down here. But if we multiply by 5 here, guess what we have to do? We have to multiply by 5 here. So this is not going to be a simple one-step problem like this one. This is going to be a multi-step. So 5 times 2 is 10. That's greater than, and it says a minus 2. Okay. Now what do we do? Well, we have to get rid of that 2, so we have to add 2 to both sides. Well, 10 plus 2 is 12 is greater than a. Now remember, we always start with a variable and read that. So it says a is less than 12. All right. So maybe we put 0 here. We can put 12 here. A is less than that, so it's going to be open circle, everything that direction. And if we think about it, any number we pick over in this area is going to be a solution. So if we plug in 0 here, 0 minus 2 is a negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 5 is a negative 2/5. That is less than 2. What if we picked, oh, say 10? Well, 10 minus 2 is 8 divided by 5. Well, 8 divided by 5, well, if we had a 10 divided by 5, that would be 2. So that's less than 2. And so we're still good there. So that's kind of a way you can check your answers to see if you have it in the right area. Because maybe on some of them you forgot to divide by the negative and you do your graph, pick a number somewhere that's in that graph, plug it back into your original equation or inequality and see is it a true statement. If it is, then you probably haven't missed anything and it's probably going to be right. All right, so now we want to write this as an interval notation. So we go from negative infinity up to 12, and we have an in parenthesis. All right, what about the next one? Well, this one, notice we have a negative 6 times m minus 6. So we need to get rid of that 6 here first. So we have to divide by a negative 6. Now, what do we know about dividing by negative 6? Ding, ding, ding. We have to flip that inequality around. So 24 divided by 6 is 4, but we want the negative of it, so it's a negative 4. Flip this around, less than or equal to, and now that's gone. So if we want to cancel, we can write that, and that's gone, that's gone, that's a plus, that's a plus. Those are both ones now. And so now we have m plus minus rather 6. Okay, so that's what we have. Now, how do we solve that? Well, we have to add 6 to both sides. So this is going to give us, and we get a 2 less than or equal, and I'm not going to be able to write this probably, less than or equal to, and then we have m, okay? And so if we rewrite that so we can actually see that less than or equal to there, that's going to be what we have. So we have to say m is greater than or equal to 2. So we can write our thing here. Here's our 2. If we put our 0 in here and greater than or equal to, well, that means we're going to have a closed circle, and it's going to be everything that direction. And that means we're going to go from bracket 2, comma, to infinity, parenthesis. Okay, so the key on this one was when we divide by that negative 6, we have to remember, flip that inequality sign going the other direction. Now, that's one thing we could do a check here. If we plugged in, say, oh, I don't know, 6 here, because that's out here, let's plug in a 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. Is 24 greater than 0? Yeah. Well, what if we had plugged in, say, 0 because we went the wrong way. We forgot to divide. Well, if we plug in 0 here, we have a minus 6. Minus 6 times a minus 6 is 36. Well, is 24 greater than or equal to 36? No. So then we know, oops, we forgot to flip that inequality, and we can go back and work on it and make sure we go the right way that time. Okay. All right, let's pause there and we'll come back for more.